All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about Salah, the Islamic prayer. Now, this is a practice that's obviously central to the faith, but as we're about to see, its meaning goes way beyond the purely spiritual. It actually touches on physical and mental well-being in some truly fascinating ways. First, just to get our heads around the scale of this, we're talking about a ritual performed by nearly 2 billion people. That's almost a quarter of the entire planet. And it's not a weekly thing, this is a daily rhythm, 5 times a day, every single day, a consistent, structured part of life for so many.
And that really leads us to the big question for this whole explainer. What is actually going on during these 5 daily moments? Is it simply a series of motions and memorized words? Or is there a much deeper, more integrated process at work, something that affects the body, the mind, and the soul all at once?
So to really understand Salah, you have to start at its very heart, its spiritual foundation. Before we even get into the science or the physical stuff, it's absolutely crucial to get that. For believers, this isn't just a duty. It's considered a vital link, a direct line of communication with God.
And this quote from Kuwait's Ministry of Islamic Affairs, man, it just puts it perfectly. Salah is described as energy for the soul. It's designed to be a moment to recharge, a way to step away from the noise of daily life and reconnect with something much bigger.
Okay, now this is where things get really, really interesting. Let's make a hard pivot from the spiritual to the physical. What if I told you that these ancient prayer movements have some pretty striking parallels with modern physiotherapy? In fact, the UK's National Health Service, the NHS, actually studied this.
You see, a single cycle of prayer isn't random. It involves a sequence of very specific postures. You've got the standing position, which is qiyam, then the bowing, known as ruku, the full prostration, which is sajda, and finally the sitting position, tashahhud. Each one is a deliberate, controlled movement.
And just take a look at these 2 key positions, the bowing and the prostration. They're not just about lowering your body. They are precise, dynamic actions that engage very specific muscle groups, almost like a carefully choreographed stretching routine.
And this chart just lays out that NHS analysis brilliantly. Look at this. The bowing, or ruku, gives you a full stretch for the lower back, thighs, and calves. The prostration, sajda, actually works your postural neck muscles and can even strengthen the rotator cuff in your shoulder. Even the simple act of turning your head at the end for the salam improves the neck's range of motion. It's essentially a gentle, full-body workout repeated 5 times a day. Incredible.
All right, so we've talked about the spiritual connection and the physical benefits, but what about the mind? Well, that brings us to our 3rd section, prayer as a workout for the mind. And this is where modern science is starting to connect some really fascinating dots.
So, a study published in the Journal of Religion and Health looked at exactly this. Researchers wanted to find out if there was a measurable link between practicing Salah and having positive mental health outcomes.
And the results were pretty significant. They found that things like religious education, and this is the key part, the degree of mindfulness during prayer could account for 13% of the variance in the participants' mental health scores. In a study like this, that's a really substantial impact.
And this slide really gets to the core finding. It wasn't just about if someone prayed, it was how they prayed. The people who practiced Salah with mindfulness, who were present and focused, had significantly higher mental health scores than those who were just kind of going through the motions without that focused attention.
And this whole idea of mindfulness brings us full circle, right back to the spiritual heart of the prayer. Because, you see, in Islamic tradition, there's a very specific word for this deep, humble, and present state of mind. It's called khushu. Khushu is basically the soul of the prayer. It's what makes the difference between an empty shell and a living, breathing act of worship. It's all about clearing your heart of distractions and just being completely 100% present in that moment of connection.
Wow, this analogy from the classical scholar Ibn al-Qayyim really drives the point home, doesn't it? He compares a prayer without khushu to a lifeless gift. The outer form might look right, the obligation is technically checked off, but the essence, the actual spirit of it, is missing.
So the crucial takeaway is this. Khushu is the key that unlocks the whole thing. Without it, the physical movements are just exercise, and the words are just recitation. But with it, the practice becomes this powerful, integrated experience for your body, your mind, and your spirit.
So as we start to bring all these different threads together, a much more complete picture of Salah starts to emerge. It's not one-dimensional at all. It's a deeply holistic practice that engages a person on pretty much every level.
So let's just quickly recap the integrated nature of this practice. We've seen its spiritual core, right? The direct connection to God. We've explored its physical side, which functions almost like a form of gentle, daily physiotherapy. And finally, we've seen its mental dimension, a built-in exercise in mindfulness that research is now showing is linked to better well-being.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. You know, our modern world so often puts these parts of our lives into separate boxes. We go to the gym for our body, we might meditate for our mind, and maybe we seek spiritual comfort somewhere else entirely.